There's a kind of strength you'll never see in the gym. No trophies, no applause. Just silence. It's the man who doesn't flinch under pressure. The woman who keeps walking after the world breaks her. The person who doesn't chase noise, because they've already mastered themselves. In an age of chaos, of distraction, ego, and endless desire, real power lies in stillness, in restraint, in the choice to endure without complaint. This is not motivation. This is a map. A guide to become unshakable. You're about to discover 10 Stoic principles that will challenge you to stop reacting and start ruling from within. You won't be the same after this. Because once you learn to endure in silence, you'll never fear the storm again. Let's begin. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. 1. Mental override at the edge. What if your most powerful moment isn't when you're standing tall on the podium, isn't when you win, or when you're celebrated, but when you're inches from collapse? That moment when your whole world feels like it's about to implode. That razor's edge right before everything breaks. That is the point of transformation. That's when something deep inside you either dies or evolves. And the only question is, which version of you walks out of that fire? Today, I'm going to show you a mind hack so powerful, it's used by elite athletes, billionaires, and special forces operatives to flip fear, pain, and panic into unstoppable power. Not later, not after the storm, but right in the eye of it. But here's your warning. Once you trigger this override, there's no going back, no safety net, no return to normal. Because this isn't about self-help. It's not therapy. It's not even motivation. It's mental warfare. Phase 1 starts now. The energy override protocol. This isn't about calming down. It's not about bouncing back. This hack is designed for one specific moment, right before your system breaks. Not the day after, not when you've processed, but right on the edge. That split second when most people snap and the rare few take command. Phase 2 will reveal the price. Because yes, there's a cost. You'll gain strength, but you'll start to lose your softness. This is real power, but it's sharp. And if you're not careful, you'll stop feeling altogether. In Phase 3, we'll talk about balance, how to carry that power without being consumed by it, how to become lethal, but not hollow. But first choose. Stay and evolve, or walk away and live with the same emotional system that's been quietly sabotaging you under pressure. Because after this, you won't just survive stress, you'll dominate it. Let's start with the truth you already feel. Ordinary is killing you. You've tried comfort. You've followed the rules, the job, the polite goals, the safe weekends, the stable paycheck. And it's suffocating. You weren't built for safe. You were built for a different operating system. And deep down, you know it, there's a switch in your brain, one that flips fear into fuel, one that converts hesitation into ruthless clarity. That switch exists. But most people never find it. Why? Because it only activates during chaos. At the exact moment when it feels like everything's falling apart. When time slows. When the noise disappears. When you're 1 second from breaking and something inside you snaps awake instead. It's called the override point. And once you hit it, you won't stay who you were. That version of you? It's done. You either level up or fade out. Isn't positive thinking. It's a neurological override protocol for high-pressure moments. Next time you're at the edge, you won't flinch, you'll lock in. You'll go cold, calm, lethal. And you'll move forward with absolute clarity. Because from now on, your identity isn't your comfort zone. It's your weapon. And weapons don't second guess. They don't hesitate. They don't feel. They execute. So let me say this clearly. If you're not ready to be feared by the version of you that's about to be born, walk away now. Because I'm about to show you the exact mental mechanism elite warriors, elite minds, and elite performers use when failure isn't an option. You're not here to feel inspired. You're here to become undeniable, but go too far. And the version of you that comes back might never laugh again, might never rest, might never love. You want to unlock true strength? Then understand the cost. You're standing on the edge between human and something more. Something dangerous. Use it right, and you'll walk into any room and own it without saying a word. People will feel it. They'll follow you. They'll respect you without knowing why, but lose control of it, and you lose the pieces of yourself that make life worth living. Real power demands a real price. So choose wisely. Let's break it down. This isn't fluff. It's not motivation. This is brain surgery. It's called cognitive reframing, but not the clinical kind. This is reframing under fire. Here's the science. Your brain doesn't respond to reality. It responds to the story you're telling yourself about reality. Change the story, change the response. Not just mentally, but biologically. Your heartbeat, your hormones, your reflexes, all of it. Let's get real. Pain doesn't break you. Your interpretation does. Someone could scream the cruelest insult imaginable at you, but if it's in a language you don't understand, it does nothing. No weight, no pain, no emotional scar. Why? Because meaning is everything. Your mind doesn't react to the event, it reacts to the narrative, and whoever owns that narrative owns your life. So here's the core of the hack. When pressure hits, don't resist it. Don't numb it. Reframe it. Tell yourself out loud, if you have to, this isn't punishment. This is fuel. This is making me stronger. Your subconscious doesn't respond to questions. It doesn't wait for logic. It responds to commands. Now lock this in. Every elite performer under fire, soldiers, athletes, crisis negotiators, uses the same steps. Pause and observe. When it hits, don't run. Don't lash out. Pause. Breathe. Welcome it. Recode the meaning. Tell yourself, I'm powering up, not I'm panicking. Same intensity, different result. Act decisively. Momentum builds identity. Every action under pressure reinforces who you're becoming. Command your energy. You own it, not the other way around. Let me give you a real example. A combat athlete once told me, I stopped fearing fear the moment I realized it meant I was ready. That's reframing, not weakness. Power. The old story, I'm scared, I'm not ready. The new story, fear means I'm preparing to strike. Same adrenaline, different outcome. You own the narrative. You own the override. This is how legends are built, not through talent, not through training, but through the ability to rewire the moment before it breaks them. Now it's your turn. 2. The power you pay for. So, now you've touched it. The override point. That cold fire that burns behind your eyes when everything else goes numb. That calm in the middle of chaos. That strange sense of control, not because things are easier, but because you've stopped caring how hard it is. You don't panic. You don't ask why. You move. But here's what they don't tell you. Once you learn how to override emotion, override pain, override hesitation, you don't just gain power. You lose something. You lose softness. You lose your ability to relate to people who still panic over little things. You start to drift from the world around you, from relationships, from rest, from joy. Because how do you explain to someone that your mind doesn't break anymore? It sharpens. That when you feel pain, your first instinct now is to step toward it. This is the dark side of resilience. The side no one posts quotes about. It's when strength becomes silence. When discipline becomes detachment. When composure becomes emotional distance. You start to live in a different world. You see others get overwhelmed, and it feels like watching a movie in slow motion. You understand it. You even feel for them, but you don't relate anymore, because you've crossed into a place where the usual rules don't apply, where people say, that's too much, and you think, that's the warm-up. And this is the paradox: the more control you gain under pressure, the more alien you become. People start to misunderstand you. You're calm when others cry, focused when others freeze, cold when others need warmth. They call it cold-hearted, stoic, emotionless. They're not wrong. You are changing. Because true override means giving up comfort permanently. Not just in moments of crisis, but as a lifestyle, as a baseline. Because you've trained your mind to stop asking, do I feel like it? And instead ask, is it necessary? Will it move me forward? Does it make me unbreakable? But here's what you need to understand now. Don't let your power become your prison. Yes, override makes you dominant. Yes, it makes you elite. But if you go too far, you'll become a machine. Efficient, lethal, and empty. Because what begins as strength can turn into emotional amputation. And you don't want to wake up one day realizing you've achieved everything, but can't feel any of it. So how do you balance it? By remembering this: override is a mode, not an identity. It's a tool, a weapon, a mental gear you shift into when it's needed, but not who you are 24/7. You're not meant to override all the time. You're meant to override on command. You're still human. You're still allowed to feel, to laugh, to connect, to be vulnerable. You don't have to choose between power and presence. You just have to know when to turn it on and when to let it go. Here's how you keep the power and stay grounded. Schedule softness. If you don't carve out space for rest, love, and stillness, you'll forget how. Journal after override. Process what just happened. Don't just move on like a robot. Let your humanity catch up. Stay around people who aren't like you. Their emotions will remind you of what you still carry inside. Use the override only in high-stakes zones. Not with your partner. Not with your kids. Not when you're alone in your room pretending everything's fine. Power without presence? That's just performance. You're here to be more than that. You're here to be dangerous and still feel deeply. Because that's the rarest kind of human. So let me ask you, now, can you hold power and not be consumed by it? Can you be the calm in the fire and still know how to feel the rain? If yes, then you're ready for phase 3, where override becomes integration. Where control doesn't cost you your soul. Where pain becomes information, not identity. Where silence becomes strength, but not isolation. Where you can look in the mirror and say, I'm not broken, I'm becoming. 3. Emotional control is a survival skill, not a superpower. By now you've felt it. The rush of power when you don't flinch. The strange high of being the one who doesn't react. People panic. You analyze, people scream. You calculate. And while the world spirals, you become the anchor. But here's the hard truth most won't tell you. Emotional control isn't rare because it's hard to learn. It's rare because most people never have to. They never hit that level of internal war where calm becomes the only thing standing. between them and collapse. So if you've built emotional control under pressure, not because it was trendy, but because it was necessary, you've already crossed into a different kind of existence. One where you're not trying to win arguments. You're trying to win back your mind. But this next step is critical. You need to stop romanticizing. Emotional control is some kind of aesthetic. It's not about looking unbothered. It's not about Instagram quotes with mountains and wolves. It's about survival. Real control looks like feeling anger surge and breathing anyway. Hearing betrayal and choosing clarity over revenge. Facing failure and refusing to self-destruct. It's not sexy. It's not cinematic. It's quiet, brutal, repetitive, and sometimes lonely, because you'll have to say no to emotional impulses your entire social circle indulges in daily. You'll bite your tongue when you could eviscerate. You'll walk away when your ego screams to stay. You'll stay silent not because you're afraid, but because you've already done the math. Emotional control is a form of sacrifice. You're trading immediate satisfaction for long-term sovereignty. And let's be honest, there are days when you'll wonder if it's worth it. You'll see people lose control, lash out, get loud, and still win sympathy, still get comfort, still get connection. Meanwhile, you're the one who held it together and got misunderstood. That's the tax. When you become the calm one, people assume you're fine, even when you're bleeding internally. But here's where it flips. That control, that calm, that poise, it becomes your currency. In business, in relationships, in war zones, emotional or literal. People start to trust you with pressure because you've proven one thing: you can be trusted with pain. So here's what to remember. Emotional control isn't about denying your feelings. It's about giving them a place, but not the steering wheel. You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to break in private, in safe places with people who see you. Control doesn't mean being numb. It means being selective. It means, I know when to unleash and when to observe. So ask yourself, can you feel something fully and still respond wisely? Can you hurt and not broadcast it? Can you carry fire and not let it burn your tongue? If so, then you're doing it right. You're not cold. You're just choosing your temperature. And that's strength. Not for applause, not for performance, but because when life hits hardest, you don't flinch. You focus, you don't crumble. You calculate. Because that's what high-level humans do. 4. When discipline turns into disconnection. There's a danger no one talks about. A side effect of becoming too disciplined. It doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in slowly. At first, your discipline feels like power. You wake early. You train in silence. You cut the noise, the drama, the distractions. You stop texting back. You stop chasing shallow thrills. You say no to things that once consumed you, and it works. You get sharper, more composed, more in control. But then, something strange happens. You start feeling separate, not better, just distant. Like the world is still spinning, but you're not really in it anymore. You'll sit in a room full of people and feel like an observer. You'll laugh, but you won't feel the warmth. You'll achieve milestones, but feel no urge to celebrate. Because somewhere along the way, your discipline stopped being a tool and started becoming a wall. A wall that protects you, but also isolates you. Here's the thing most people don't get. Discipline isn't about cutting yourself off. It's about choosing what you connect to on purpose. When it's healthy, discipline grounds you. When it's extreme, it numbs you. You start refusing joy in the name of focus. You start rejecting closeness in the name of independence. You start punishing yourself for wanting softness, rest, even affection. Because somewhere deep inside, you've internalized this lie. If it feels good, it must be a distraction. But that's not strength. That's starvation. Real discipline isn't about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally aware and choosing not to be ruled by it. You don't have to sever ties to feel powerful. You don't have to suffer to prove your strength. Yes, solitude sharpens you, but connection grounds you. It reminds you why you fight in the first place. So if you've been feeling empty, even while achieving, if you've been confusing isolation with discipline, maybe it's time to check your compass. Not to become softer, but to remember, you're not a machine. You're a human learning to master yourself. And humans? We need more than cold logic. We need meaning. We need presence. We need each other. So take this as a quiet permission. You can be disciplined and still dance. You can be focused and still feel. You can be strong without being a statue. Let your discipline serve you, not imprison you, because the goal was never to become invincible. The goal was to become real. 5. Why presence beats intelligence every time. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if your mind is always somewhere else, it won't matter. Intelligence is potential. Presence is power. And in a world addicted to speed, attention, and performance, being fully here, fully locked in, is the most rare and magnetic trait you can develop. Think about the last time someone truly listened to you, not nodded, not waited to speak, but really listened. You felt it. Their eyes didn't dart. Their energy didn't scatter. Their presence didn't shrink. They were with you. And in that moment, it wasn't about their degrees, their vocabulary, or their IQ. It was about something deeper, attention. Because attention is the new respect. And presence is the purest form of power. But here's the twist. Presence is not something you're born with. It's not a personality trait. It's a discipline. It takes work to quiet your mind. It takes strength to not wander off into future plans or past wounds. It takes maturity to look someone in the eye and not flinch when things get uncomfortable. Presence is not about being calm. It's about being engaged with the moment, with the person, with yourself. You've met people like this. They don't say much, but when they do, it lands. They don't rush, but they're never late. They don't dominate a room, but somehow every room orbits around them. Why? Because they're here. And most people aren't. Most people are chasing, scrolling, performing, escaping. But the ones who master presence, they become unforgettable. Presence beats intelligence because intelligence only works when it's applied. And you can't apply anything if your attention is fractured. Presence makes you a better leader because people trust the grounded. A better friend because people crave to be seen. A better creator because focus turns ideas into impact. A better partner because love isn't measured in words, but in attention. And here's the part most overlook. Presence can't be faked. You either are in the moment or you aren't. So how do you build it? Not by trying to look present, but by removing the things that rip you away from now. The need to respond instantly. The habit of anticipating what comes next. The fear of silence. You become present by choosing stillness, even when your brain screams to move, to check, to scroll, to escape. So if you want to feel powerful again, not anxious, not overwhelmed, not scattered, don't chase more knowledge. Chase depth. Slow your thoughts, focus your gaze, sharpen your presence, because in a distracted world, stillness is a superpower, and presence? That's what makes people remember you long after you're gone. 6. Why people fear what they can't understand, especially you. There's something that happens when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop defending your decisions, when you stop living by committee approval. You become harder to read. And for some, that's unsettling. Because people don't fear what's dangerous. They fear what's uncertain. You'll notice it the moment you choose silence over oversharing. The moment you walk into a room, calm, grounded, and unreadable, people start projecting. Are they mad? Do they think they're better? What are they hiding? Nothing. You're just not performing anymore. And that makes people uncomfortable. Because most people perform constantly, for attention, for validation, for belonging. But when you step outside that game, when you just exist without needing to be seen, you become unpredictable. And the truth is, unpredictability is power. Think about it. The people who scare us most aren't the loudest. They're the ones who move quietly with intention, who speak with few words but every word lands, who don't react emotionally but act deliberately. We don't fear them because they're violent. We fear them because we can't predict them, and we can't predict them because they don't need our approval. Here's a hard truth. If everyone understands you, you're probably performing. You've rounded your edges, filtered your truth, diluted your depth to stay digestible. But if you're walking the path of growth, solitude, and self-mastery, you're going to confuse people. You're going to lose people. You're going to be misunderstood, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something rare. People fear what they can't label. They're comforted by categories. He's the funny guy. She's the nice one. They're the overachiever. But what happens when you stop fitting the mold? What happens? When you grow and refuse to shrink again, you become complex. And complexity is threatening to those who haven't faced their own. They'll try to reduce you. Too cold. Too serious. Too much. But what they're really saying is, I don't know how to read you anymore, and that scares me. Let them be scared, because your goal was never to be understood by everyone. It was to be true to yourself. So keep moving in silence. Keep deepening your focus. Keep protecting your energy. And when people try to define you, smile. You're not here to be explained. You're here to become. Let them fear what they can't decode. Let your silence be unsettling. Let your presence say everything words never could. Because at the end of the day, the loud are predictable. The real are rare. And the rare are always misunderstood. 7. Let them go. You don't need everyone to understand your journey. You will outgrow people. Not because you're better, but because you're becoming different. And that difference, your evolution, will make some people uncomfortable. Let it. Not everyone is meant to walk the whole road with you. Some are meant to teach you, test you, tempt you, or even betray you. But very few are meant to stay. And that's not a tragedy. That's the design of growth. Because the higher you go, the quieter it gets. You'll lose the need for constant conversation. You'll stop explaining your choices. You'll stop fighting to be understood. You'll realize you don't need their permission to keep evolving. Most people crave connection. That's natural. But when connection starts costing your authenticity, that's when you know it's time to let go. Let go of the people who only loved you when you were soft, small, or struggling. Let go of the friends who flinch when you level up. Let go of the expectations that say, you've changed, like it's a sin. You have changed, and you're allowed to. Growth is not betrayal. It's alignment. The truth is, you don't need to be understood by people who aren't even trying to understand themselves. You don't need validation from those who've never dared to reinvent their life. You don't need closeness with people who only feel safe when you stay the same. Need peace. You need purpose. You need to walk forward, even if that means walking alone, and it will feel lonely sometimes. That's real. There will be days you miss the old connections, even if they weren't good for you. You'll question yourself. You'll feel the ache of solitude. You'll wonder if the journey is worth the cost. But that pain, that loneliness, it's the space where your next self is being born. And soon, that version of you, the one that's more grounded, more focused, more aligned, will stop mourning the past and start attracting the right people. People who don't need the old version of you. People who don't panic when you're silent. People who admire your depth, not fear it. People who meet you with presence, not performance. But you'll only find them after you let the others go. So release them with love, not bitterness, not resentment, because even their exit was part of your becoming. And as you continue forward stronger, quieter, more intentional, remember this: you don't need everyone to understand your journey. You just need the courage to walk it anyway. 8. Why stillness makes you magnetic in a chaotic world. In a world addicted to speed, noise, and constant motion, stillness is rebellion, and those who master it, they become magnetic. Not because they're loud, but because they're centered. Stillness isn't the absence of movement. It's the presence of control. It's being grounded in a storm, unafraid in chaos, unmoved by noise. And that kind of presence, it draws people in like gravity, because most people are running from distractions, from emptiness, from themselves. But when they meet someone who's not running, someone who's calm, composed, and rooted, they feel it. And they don't know why. Stillness is rare. And what's rare becomes powerful. It tells the world, I don't need to react. I don't need to chase. I don't need to prove. It says, I've done the inner work. I've made peace with my own company. I don't crave attention. I command presence. That's why still people stand out. In a crowd of performative personalities, the quiet one becomes mysterious. The unbothered one becomes respected. The one who listens more than they speak. They become feared because no one knows what they're thinking. Stillness creates curiosity. It creates contrast. It creates impact. Look at nature. The deepest lakes are the stillest. The most powerful animals are the calmest. Lions don't roar all day. Eagles don't flap frantically. They wait. They watch. They strike when it matters. You don't have to be loud to be strong. You just have to be in control of yourself. In conversations, stillness makes you a better listener. In conflict, it gives you power over your emotions. In relationships, it creates trust through presence. And in your own life, it becomes a compass. Because when you're still, you can actually hear your intuition. You can notice what feels right and what doesn't. You can move with clarity, not chaos. Stillness is your edge. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing things from a place of centeredness, not rushed, not reactive, but deliberate. That's what makes a man or woman unshakable. Not how much they say, not how fast they move, but how deeply they've anchored within themselves. So, let the world spin. Let others chase, shout, and stumble. You be still, because stillness doesn't make you passive. It makes you potent. And in a world that can't stop moving, the still one becomes unforgettable. 9. Why mastery over your emotions is the ultimate power. There's strength, there's intelligence, there's charisma, but above all, there's emotional mastery. Because no matter how talented you are, if you can't control your emotions, you'll be controlled by everything else. The Stoics knew this. That's why they didn't waste time asking, why did this happen to me? They asked, how can I respond to this wisely? Because here's the truth. You are not your emotions. You are the one who witnesses them. And the moment you forget that, you give your power away. Think about how the world trains us. React fast. Get angry quickly. Take everything personally. Post your feelings online for validation. But here's what the wise do. They pause. They breathe. They sit with the discomfort instead of escaping it. They don't suppress emotions. They observe them, study them, learn from them. And most importantly, they choose their response. This is true emotional power. Not never feeling anger, but not letting anger make your decisions. Not pretending you're never afraid, but not letting fear run your life. Not always being happy, but always staying centered. When you master your emotions, you stop being manipulated. That text doesn't rattle you. That insult doesn't reach you. That delay doesn't derail you. You become a fortress, calm inside, clear-headed in chaos, because emotional control is freedom. Freedom from overthinking. Freedom from regret. Freedom from making choices that destroy your peace. People will test you. Life will test you harder. There will be betrayal, loss, failure, disrespect. But the one who can feel every storm without becoming the storm, that person is unbreakable. They don't suppress. They transmute. They turn pain into wisdom. Anger into boundaries. Fear into strategy. Sadness into depth. That's not weakness. That's inner alchemy. So stop trying to control everything around you. Start mastering what's within you. Because when you own your emotions, you own your life. 10. The final principle. Endure with purpose, or suffer without it. Life guarantees one thing. You will suffer. Not because you're weak, not because the world is unfair, but because existence itself is resistance. Pain is built into the blueprint. Loss, failure, rejection, loneliness. These are not detours, they are the path. But here's the difference. You can suffer aimlessly, or you can endure with purpose. That's the final Stoic principle. Not to avoid hardship, but to assign meaning to it. Because when you know why you endure, you can carry any burden. Pain without meaning crushes you, but pain with meaning, it builds you. That's how soldiers survive war. How parents raise children through sleepless nights. How addicts claw their way back to life. How visionaries keep going after 100 failures. They suffer, but not blindly. They endure for something greater. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. You get to choose how to frame your suffering. You can say, why me? Or this is shaping me. You can say, this is too much, or I was made for this. Your mindset either weaponizes your suffering or makes you a victim of it. You can suffer in the gym and build strength, or suffer in stagnation and decay. You can suffer through heartbreak and become deeper, or suffer in bitterness and close off forever. There's no escape from pain, but there is a path through it. Purpose. So ask yourself, why do I get up when I fall? Who do I fight for when I'm tired? What vision keeps me alive when everything hurts? Purpose doesn't eliminate the struggle, but it transforms it. It makes your wounds sacred. It gives your scars meaning. The Stoics didn't chase pleasure. They didn't avoid pain. They embraced the challenge because they knew a life of comfort creates emptiness. A life of purpose demands endurance. But it gives you something even greater: honor, direction, inner peace. So when life hits hard, don't just survive. Endure with meaning. Walk through the fire, not because it's easy, but because there's something on the other side worth becoming. You've made it through all 10 parts. Each principle isn't just a philosophy, it's a challenge to live quieter, to endure deeper, to think sharper, to love wiser, to become someone who doesn't just react to life, but commands it from within. This is Stoicism. This is strength. And now it's yours. Stay grounded. Stay dangerous. Stay free. If this spoke to something deep in you, subscribe. Not for me, but for the stronger version of yourself you're becoming. This journey is just beginning. I'll see you in the next video.